Welcome to the Ashes We Keep. I'm Jen Allen. I'm a mom, a wife, a nurse, and someone who knows what it's like to walk with profound grief. Here, I sit with people who have also lost someone that they love. We talk about the pain, the healing, and the very, very messy middle. The space is raw, it's real, and it's human. Today, I would like to thank Lauren Klayton for joining me. Lauren is the founder and heart behind Clarity for Your Chaos, a Colorado based professional organizing company that specializes in creating supportive, sustainable, and neurodivergent friendly systems for homes and lives in transition. With a deep passion for helping others reclaim their spaces and their peace, Lauren leads a team that does far more than tidy up. They transform environments into reflections of the life their clients want to live. Lauren, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate your time and I appreciate you. And I would love to start out by just letting you introduce yourself to everyone and share your grief story with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be on and talk about a sensitive subject that I think that for very long we've kind of avoided as a society.
Yeah.
And it's time we start talking about the dark parts of life so that we understand we have a little bit more community. So thanks for creating that light for other people.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So, as she said, I am Lauren Klayton. I own Clarity for Your Chaos. And beyond tidying, we also do something that's called grief cleaning. And we help walk alongside our clients that are grieving, going through loved ones' items, repurposing spaces that belong to loved ones after they've passed, creating systems for them to be able to visit the items that are really important to them and keepsake them, if you will. And then also just giving them a space to be able to just have once again, reclaiming your space sometimes looks a lot different to most people. It can be a very spiritual thing a lot of times. My personal grief story, I've experienced a good amount of grief. I've lost several friends to suicide. I have lost 3 pregnancies. And then 2 years ago, I lost my mother. And that happened all at the same time that I had moved that week for like the third time in that year. So like I'd moved every other month. My divorce was finalized. My mother passed away. And I can tell you that after literally the universe telling me to sit down, I listened because the grief is really kind of what took me down to begin with. And so providing that support structure for people that are going through grief and that have nowhere else to go. In Judaism, which happens to be what I was raised in, we have a lot of rules around grief, actually. Like you're not allowed to leave the body of a dead person until they're buried. It's one of the best things that you can do because you're protecting that body and you're making sure that it's taken care of, and that person can never repay you. And we sit with our families. We give them the opportunity to just sit and exist in their grief. The house is taken care of by the community. The community gathers around them. And I think a lot of that community involvement around grief has disappeared in at least American society.
Yeah, I think you're right. I've noticed that not just is not just where grief is involved, but in every aspect of our mental health, we are like force fed in social media to be happy all the time. And if you're not happy all the time, something must be wrong with you.
Mhm.
And like how are we supposed to compete with that? How are we supposed to live up to those expectations? Life is messy. Sometimes we're sad, sometimes we're mad, sometimes we're grieving. And that's not abnormal. That's normal. That's the human experience. And that's one of the things I'm trying to do here is share with people that this is okay. It's okay to lose someone and be so pissed off. It's okay to lose someone and not be able to get out of bed for a week. Um, it's expected, as far as I'm concerned, to lose a child and not be okay for years and years and years, and that's all okay. And
Mhm.
so I love what you do with your business and supporting folks who have lost someone and just need some space to live and to grieve and to
To live.
share.
To live, really.
Yeah.
I mean, to grieve really is to live, if you think about it. Because if you're grieving, that means that you have had the opportunity to have something that brought life and joy and brightness into your life, which I feel like people are constantly stating that that's what makes life worth living. And yes, it is what makes life worth living. But on the other hand, you wouldn't feel alive if you didn't have grief in your heart. You wouldn't feel alive if you weren't nervous around the person that you might be crushing on, right? Like we have been so attuned to just being on the happy horny scale, which is very, productive for corporate America and capitalism and all the things that keep us running in the rat race. But once we actually take the time and space to actually like exist within our multitude of emotions and allow ourselves to be a range of emotions and experience the human experience, I think that that's when you start like taking yourself out of the societal norms and you start recognizing and maybe even working through your own grief. Like it's really easy to just work. It's really easy for your mom to die and for you to just be like, I'm just going to bury myself in work and not even like deal with it for like 30 years. And then all of a sudden
Yeah.
one day you wake up and just everything bubbles up and out because it never was actually addressed. Right. And instead, I think the challenge is that you take the time to actually sit within the feelings and ride the wave and then let them pass through you because you are here experiencing this pass through you. And then you get to, hold on to those memories. That's really worth living. I had a good mom for the most part. I had amazing friends and I get those memories with them. And
Yeah.
that's what you have to hold on to.
I love that you mentioned that um, like how sometimes people can bury themselves and hide from their grief in particular. I like to describe my grief as like my very, very new, very needy new friend. And if I ignore her, she gets really pissed and she will sneak up on me and she will attack. And I've learned to like give her time and pay attention to her and spend time with her and sort of make a ritual out of it. And when I do that, she is calm and things are better. Not that she doesn't sneak up on me sometimes still, because that's, still very, very real. Um, but it just all feels so much more manageable. And so
Hmm.
that leads me into a question for you. After your mom left or you lost some really close friends, what did you do early on in your grief process that really helped you?
I think for me, it also it depends on the person, right? And the connection.
Yeah.
One of my friends actually, I lost due to somebody else's suicide. Like he died because his roommate completed suicide and beneath him with the car. So he died in the garage, like from carbon monoxide
Oh,
poisoning. And so like that one was really difficult because I was 15 and he had come by the day before and I will never forget this. And Luke was like, Lauren, let's go out. And my dad said, no, Lauren, you have to do math homework. You will see him tomorrow. And then
mm,
I never did.
yeah.
Right. And so like that grief process looked a lot like a 15-year-old raging out. And she was very angry. Right. But like losing my mom, I had a huge support system. I had been helping my dad take care of her. I'd been going through a lot already. My window of tolerance was like nothing. I was a puddle, to be quite honest with you. Honestly, I was super malleable. Anybody could have taken super advantage of me. And I think that's another reason why we do what we do in our business is because we become protectors of people because you kind of shut down. You just kind of give up on everything and you just allow everything to happen. That's what I did. And I am grateful to have had the support structure of my community. My aunts and uncles came out and then they helped with some grief cleaning and taking care of a lot of the funeral stuff. So that way I could just exist because having to like plan a funeral on top of what I had just gone through that week was impossible to be
Yeah.
quite with you. And I had already done, we knew this was happening. She was already in hospice. So I had already done the prerequisites. I'd already gotten a hold of like the food and the catering and the this and the that and the Air Force Academy. And we already had like the majority of everything taken care of, my dad and I, as we do. Like when he dies, he's like, I have this thumb drive and you are the thumb drive. I was like, yes, sir. I don't know what we're doing, but it's on the thumb drive and he's got it all planned out. And to be quite honest with you, thank you, because I'm gonna be a mess. But having that opportunity to have some stuff kind of pre-planned gave me the opportunity to be a puddle. Like I
Yeah.
think that a lot of times we also put so much value on being productive all the time that we don't give any value to like authenticity, which you touched on, about being happy all the time. Like that's not authentic. And I don't trust anybody that can't actually be like honest about who they really are and the
Yeah.
feelings they're really having. Right? If you're always wearing a mask, you're not a safe person. And in our society, we've been taught to be happy all the time. And, I was very raw and real about my grief on social media and with my friends because I wanted people to see that it's not all sunshine and rainbows. And I'm a very sunshine and rainbows person, if you know me. But like, if it's not, I'm going to say it. If I'm uncomfortable or if I, am grieving or something, I'm outspoken typically.
Yeah. I appreciate that so much because I think it's it's something that we're lacking a great deal of in our society because we do only want to share the happy moments and the great things that are going on. We don't share the rough things that are happening in our life. And it's funny because when people do share those moments, that's when we connect to them the most. And like, that's when I'm like, wow, Lauren, you're like a real person. And you've gone through some shit too. I feel connected to you. And so I think we need more of that. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. I think it's important for us to not set an expectation of being a robot. Like, why do we want to be a robot? And what we do all the time, I always say like the opposite of a hot mess is cold and tidy. And I think we want to land somewhere in between, right? Like neither one is bad necessarily. It's just that if you're on a spectrum of hot and messy or cold and tidy, I kind of want to be somewhere like comfortably warm.
Yeah.
And so giving yourself the opportunity to show up comfortably warm and giving other people the opportunity to show up comfortably warm, you know, if my friends didn't call me when they needed me, I wouldn't feel valuable. And if you didn't want my advice when, shit was hitting the fan, I wouldn't be able to connect to you. And so it's in those moments of vulnerability that we create connection, but you have to be willing to have people see the ugly side of you. And
Yeah.
it isn't really ugly. It just is.
Yeah. No, I think those scars are actually pretty beautiful. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I like to try to teach people that grief is something that never goes away. Um, like there's no like I hate it when people talk about the stages of grief as if you can do them all in a row and then reach the end of the game and all of a sudden you're all better and now life is going to be all peachy and fabulous. um, it's a lifelong process. And so I would like to know if you could share with me how your grief looked then versus how it looks for you now. Like how is it different?
There's a song called Glitter by Patrick Brody, and he talks about how grief is just like glitter. You can't wipe it away. Like it still shows up every once in a while and the light shines on it and
Yeah.
you get this glimmer. And, again, this is where you ride the emotions instead of like trying to pack them down and distract yourself or
Yeah.
whatever you might need to do. This is where you sit with it. So, like, I remember there was a moment shortly after my mom passed away. She used to take me to this place called Poor Richard's Bookstore downtown
Mm-hmm.
in Colorado Springs. It was one of her favorite places. And so, like, I'm just going about my day. I'm on my way to a consult. Do's pull up. Oh my gosh, my client happens to like be in the building right above Poor Richard's Bookstore. So all of a sudden, I get in. Like, I look at the bookstore. This is one of those glitter moments, right? And then all of a sudden, I'm like, oh my god. And then the memories, they just start rushing in. And I just sat in my car and I cried. I'm not I was like, all right, I'm going to be 5 minutes late. I'm going to take a moment. and I'm going to feel these feelings. And as I was like feeling the feelings, I could have fought them, but really at the end of the day, it was just my joy coming back to me in a way that was sad because I wasn't able to recreate it again. And so, when I was a teenager, it came out a lot as rage. I
I'm
love rage. I am a spicy meatball. But I learned to like harness a lot of that rage and harness a lot of that underlying emotions, and allow myself to feel the feelings. And then I sat
yeah.
with it, and for a long time, there's that you just kind of sit with it, and then it passes through you. And then you recognize that it's really just love, that it's really just joy, and that it's really just the wanting and need to have this love, and you have nowhere to put it. And
Hmm.
so by recognizing that when I see it and it comes through me, I allow myself to feel the feelings. If I need to cry, I cry. If, I need to take a moment, I take a moment. And I give myself the grace to be grateful to have that memory or to have that little glimmer of glitter of whatever it might be. And it starts out as waves, and eventually the waves do lessen over time, but they never disappear. I mean, I was 15. What is that? Like 25 years ago? Still kind of slightly hate math homework because I had to do math and I would miss the last opportunity with one of my great friends. Like these things kind of stick with you sometimes. And it's you
Yeah.
being able to like put the baggage down and be like, okay, well, math isn't the reason I missed him. It's really my dad making me stay home.
Yes.
But yeah, I think it's just allowing yourself to feel the feelings and not be embarrassed by them, and then understand that it's just going to continue. And then sit in the love instead of sitting in the lack.
Yeah. Is there a way that you like to, like, are there things that you do regularly to help you, like, honor your mom or remember her? Or, like, what kind of rituals do you guys have, if any?
So my mom was an integral piece of this community when it came to fundraising. She worked diligently with multiple nonprofits. She and my dad ran the Veterans Day Parade. They were on the
Hmm.
board. They were on the board for school board for District 20. They were heavily influential in the Jewish community as well as just countless other volunteer opportunities. I grew up watching my mom actively just pour her heart and soul into the community and build it up. She is currently buried at the Air Force Academy, and she is a civilian, which is a feat
Yeah.
pretty spectacular. And so, in that legacy of service before self, which is really the legacy that she left, I think that that's the biggest way that I show up and honor her. I'm going to cry at some point because, she taught me what it was like to serve others. And yeah, maybe service before self, maybe we shouldn't do that. Maybe it's a little too codependent. Maybe we should pour from, a full cup and
Yeah.
overflow to those around us. But I think that the legacy and how I show up for the community and then how I show up for my kids. My mom was pretty fun. She did have a brain tumor on the area of her brain that regulated anxiety. So she was also a spicy meatball. And so, I think there's this point also when you become a parent and you watch and think about the things that your parents did, and you start to understand the whys because you now see it from a different perspective. And so, being able to show up better as a mom and being able to, com- implement some of the things that she would do and the fun things that she would do, and giving my kids the opportunity to have that portion, the good portions. But mostly I think it's in the legacy of our community and building it and representing good here in the community.
Yeah. I love that. That's really, really inspiring. I think that's really cool. um, do you guys have, or do you believe in, I like to ask this sometimes, like signs? Do you get signs from your mom? Do you, um,
Yeah.
how does that show up for you?
So I I have a lot of clairvoyant friends, and so there's that aspect of it. We're very spiritually connected, my sister as well. But there was a point I was actually on the news, And there was a clairvoyant that I'd never met before on before me. And then like I just kept seeing her like staring at me, and I was like, oh no. She's got a message. I know this. And it was really interesting because she came to me and she talked to me. And she actually had a message from a couple of friends, like Mia, who had completed suicide. And she was like, no, she's happy. She's really good. I need you to understand that she's good. And I was like, well, that was good. And then she was like, and then I want you to know that your mom flickers lights all the time. And I was like, that tracks actually. And like, it's very interesting because, you know, at the end of the day, you can believe what you want to believe, but you
Yeah.
know, there's a lot to be said about frequencies and people being their own frequency and whether or not that frequency comes to visit and how lights and radio waves and all those different things interact. But at the end of the day, I see it in blinking lights, and that my mom, you know, says that. Or you know, in music, I do hear a lot of music and like listen to it. I get it shuffled to me on a regular basis and just let the algorithm gods, you know, or just like it's like listening to the radio or whatever happens to be on in the store or any of that kind of, you know, I listen to the music. And if my mom sends me songs that I remember her in them.
Yeah, I love that. I love to ask that because I know a lot of people struggle with that. Some people feel very strongly, you know, one way or the other. Um, but my message is always like whatever makes you feel better. Like what difference does it make? And I don't know where I stand on that spectrum, but I do know sometimes really weird shit happens that I can't explain, and I'm like, that has to be Daniel. Like there's no other
Mhm.
explanation. Like who? Like that's too much of a coincidence. So I love that. I love that she flickers lights for you.
And Luke leaves everybody dimes, like everybody that he knew. And it's been 25 years since he passed away, you know, and he leaves everybody dimes. So every time I see a dime or pick a dime up, I'm like, hey, Luke, I
Aw.
hear I need to come see you. Like, and then I'll go visit him and, you know, have a quick conversation because I always feel like he's kind of like my guardian angel that looks over me and he's probably been really busy.
Aw. You need to give him a break, maybe.
It's hard. Thanks.
Um, Share with me something that you have learned about yourself through this process.
Oh, I would say through my most recent grief process, the thing that I learned the most was how to let go of control. You know, I think there for a while I was really holding on tight, very, very tight to a lot of different things in order to, let's say, lie to myself about the control that I actually had in my life. And once you just give up, and if you know, you know, and if you don't, you don't. Like either you have been hit so hard with life that you give up, or you haven't. And once you've been hit with that, like, and you just relinquish and submit, I don't know how to describe it beyond that. You just submit to the universe and allow everything around you to either take care of you or to see what happens. Um, there comes this freedom almost that you are able to just relax into. At first you do fight and kick and scream and, you know, clear as we do, but there does come some clarity from just allowing everything to fall into place and not try to control it no matter how awful it looks at the time.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was the biggest thing for me, was just allowing myself to go with the flow even when I don't want it to be like this,
yeah. I
especially.
love, yeah, I love that you said the word control because I think that's why. Well, I think there's a couple of reasons why people struggle so much with grief. And one is control because we feel like we have lost all control when someone that we love dies. But when we understand that we had no control in the first place, it's a little easier for us to, you know, learn to accept the things that come, the things that happen to us. And then the other thing is, and I always love to talk about this because I know so many people struggle with it, is guilt. We have this guilt and shame associated with grief. Um, Like, I remember the first time I laughed after I lost my son Daniel. I was like, I can't laugh, I can't joke, I can't do anything that makes it look like I'm okay, or it's gonna look like I don't love him and I don't miss him.
Yeah.
And it took me a little while, to realize that that's not what that means at all. So, how did you struggle with any of that in your process? And if so, what did that look like for you?
Mm. I think with my mom, shortly after we call it the series of unfortunate events. Um, I actually, like, about 6 weeks, maybe 2 months later, I actually slipped and fell and, like, had to have my wrist reconstructed. So
Wow.
when we talk about the series of unfortunate events,
Yeah.
the universe really sat me down. Sat me down. Um, yeah, I said okay. I submit. But in that, there was a lot of guilt, like, in everything, because I wasn't able to do anything. Like, I now had to have everybody take care of me. Like, I couldn't even put my pants on. I couldn't even put my hair up. I couldn't help my dad in any capacity. I couldn't go over and help him. He was all by himself. I, have kids over here. And there was this overwhelming guilt of um, not being there when I feel like I should have been there. Like, you always hear people talk about it, like, time is of the essence, and if you have the time, do it.
Yeah.
And I just feel like I could have been there more, and I think that a lot of people ruminate in that a lot.
Yeah.
But also understanding that, like, you were there for as long as you needed to be there. Again, this is one of those control things. You can should yourself to death. You can ruminate in that, and you can spiral, and you can make yourself feel worse, or you can flip the switch on that and recognize that we're sitting in love, and you get to cherish the time that you did have, and you got that time for a reason, and that, in the grand scheme of your life, not everything is about this individual person, but this person has a ripple impact on you.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. One of the things I try to remind myself of when I do um, slip into those moments is gratitude and being grateful for the 25 years that I had with my son versus, pissed off and pouty and throwing a temper tantrum about all of the time that I have lost with him.
Mhm.
And um, I mean, not that it's bad to be pouty about that stuff because that sucks, but
Yeah.
it doesn't help me to sit there forever. Like, I have to be able to find gratitude and peace with what's happening, or I will fail at my goal, which is to make sure that the legacy he left behind is my joy and happiness, not my destruction.
Hmm. Yes, so much yes. Like, you you know for a fact that your son would have wanted you to be happy, right? Like, all of these people that we've lost, none of them are going to be like, "Oh, I want you to be miserable without me." And honestly, if they ever said that to you, they're probably not somebody you want in your life. Just saying, grieve
Yeah.
them out. But at the end of the day, the people that love you and care about you want to see you shine bright, right? And so that also means that when you think of me when I die, I want you to think of me and shine bright. I do not want it to dim your light. And so, I always say, like, for my funeral, it's going to be a party, and there's going to be, like, food trucks, and everybody gets the day off of work because you knew me and I was your best friend forever. And you have to be there. And I just want people to enjoy themselves and celebrate and talk about all the cool things and wear whatever they want, probably costumes, honestly. Like, let's have a fun time, right? Because at the end of the day, I don't want people to be like, people are going to cry, people are going to be sad no matter what, because that love is gone. But at the end of the day, I want them to also recognize that I was able to give so much love to them that they now get to carry that with them, and hopefully at the end of the day makes even more memories, because the legacy is something that you bring with you, and how you touch people's lives, you know that's
Yeah,
the most important.
I love that. Um, if you if you could give, how do I want to ask this? Sometimes I like to ask, like, what kind of things helped, you during your process, but also I've noticed I'm in a lot of groups and I see a lot of horror stories about this. But is there anything that people did early on in your grief that was just not helpful, that you wish they didn't do and maybe they should have done something a little different?
Hmm, that is a good question. Um, you know, yes. When my friend Mia completed suicide, and everybody's allowed to grieve however they want to grieve. However, going on a rant and calling her selfish and shaming her for the decision that she had, especially as somebody who has contemplated suicide all the way up to like trying a couple of times.
Yeah,
And if you don't, and again, this is if you know, you know, and if you don't, you don't. But somebody that completes suicide typically feels like there's so much of a burden that taking them out of the world would be better for the people on them. Typically, this is
yeah,
not always the case, but at least in Mia's case, very much was. And to then call yourself a friend of somebody and then to shame them for their darkest, deepest, hardest decision and knowing where she was coming from and then being shamed on the back end for it was very difficult for me to even be around that person, to
yeah,
be honest with you, because in my grief process I was still just sad about my friend and that she even felt that way because she wasn't a burden and I wanted her to feel very much valuable, but she didn't feel that way. That's why she did what she did. And then to have people be mean to her about
yeah.
it is was very not helpful. It did definitely set me off. I think I was like 21 at this time, so clearly fully developed and mature. But it did definitely set me off because there just wasn't any empathy. There was very much like, how could she do this?
Yeah,
And I don't think that that's helpful in any like ever. I don't think that that's ever helpful in any
yeah,
situation that there's a problem. I don't think it's ever helpful to shame or pass judgment, especially if you've never ever had any kind of like 10-foot pole inkling of what that might feel, look, or be like. I
yeah,
think at that point it's your job to just be like, wow, I miss my friend.
yeah. I love that you mentioned that. That hits home for me for a couple of reasons. One, my son took his own life. That's why we're here today.
Mhm.
And two, since that time, I have struggled with the idea of that a lot myself. And you're right. It's not like I'm going to do this to somebody. It's
Yeah.
this pain is so much that I just wanted to go away.
Yep.
Um,
And I
so
don't
just,
want my loved ones to feel my pain because my pain is so all encompassing. My pain is now daggers coming out onto the people around me. And I love these people and I don't want to hurt them, right? Like, you are valuable to your son. That is love,
yeah.
right?
And I've been really fortunate so far that no one has said anything like that to me. So I'm so sorry that someone said something like that to you because I think it's terrible. Um, but one of my son's friends that he grew up with, Cade, said something the opposite of that that I thought was really beautiful. And so I just wanted to share it with you because hopefully it will help a little bit. But Daniel, my son, was kind of a wild guy. You know, the guy that was jumping off cliffs and trying new jumps, snowboarding, and hitting his head all the time and just being a goofball. So brave. And all of his friends always thought of him as so brave. And when his friend Cade reached out to me, he mentioned to me how brave he thought Daniel was for being able to do what he did. And that like just struck a chord with me because he's right. Like that's the scariest thing that any of us could ever even imagine doing, right? Like we don't know what's on the other side and these people are willing to go there to get away from what's going on this side.
Mhm.
And So I wanted to share that with you because it made my heart warm and it gave me a different perspective on suicide altogether. Um, because they're not giving up, they're not chickening out.
Right.
They're actually really, really brave. And so hopefully, yeah,
I'm going to use that from here on out. Like, how courageous. Like, at what point do we stop like flipping the switch and we change the paradigm when it comes to what this does? Like, yes, is it painful? Yes. Is it, does it create a ripple effect? Absolutely. Can we also look at this from another perspective without creating more pain and suffering? Like,
yeah,
it is very courageous of him to make a choice that was best for him. Nobody can make that choice for you but you.
yeah. I like to talk about that because there are people in our lives who are in a situation like I've been a nurse for a really long time and I've seen people suffer physically and mentally so much. People who can't feed themselves and can't get up and can't use their restroom. And as a society, we're at this point where we just let them suffer, even though they want to go. And that's another reason why I like to talk about this is because I think if we're going to have true autonomy in our health and our wellness, then we should be able to decide when
Yeah,
it's time to go. Like we shouldn't have to, live until we can't get up and do those things anymore with cancer or Alzheimer disease or just any of those things. And so I like to talk about that bravery and that autonomy that people should be allowed to have.
yeah. I mean, we do it for our animals. I just had to put my cat down. She was
Yeah,
almost 20 years old, and she had, she was dying, and she was miserable. And there was no. I wasn't going to continue to allow this to. That's not how she needs to spend any of her time.
yeah,
And I think that we need to also give that to people and let people make the decision of what they want to do with their life themselves.
yeah,
You know? And I agree. Like, I think that I'm very pro assisted suicide, especially when it comes to like cancer and things like that. If you can't live your life, when I broke my wrist, like I couldn't put on pants. I had to learn how to do everything all over again.
yeah,
Every dream and plan that I had was like kibosh. I was watching like my entire life from like the bondage of my own body. My other shoulder went out, so like I couldn't. I nope, none. I was nothing, and it was horrible. Like I had nerve damage, and so like moving, breathing hurt. Like
yeah,
there was a point that I was sitting there thinking to myself, like, if we can't figure this out, I this is life is not worth living. I can't enjoy any aspect of life. And if you take away everything that brings you joy, then what's the point of living?
yeah, yeah. Unpopular opinion, but yeah, I
Unpopular opinion.
agree. Yeah. Did anybody through your process ever pressure you to move on or like, why are you still sad or anything like that? Did you have any issues like that?
Mm, not necessarily. I mean, I had an ex-boyfriend at the time that with my mom that helped in a lot of different ways, but like I could tell that the weight of what I was carrying and then him trying to like take that on to carry the load, it was too much. And
Yeah.
so there was a rush in a lot of things because he couldn't handle the load. Does that make sense? So
Absolutely.
but I don't think that he ever was like, get over it. Nobody ever said that, which was I have a great family, a great support system structure around me. Nobody's ever said like, get over it necessarily. I did have people like say that about the pregnancies, which was really kind of hard actually.
Mm. Yeah.
Um, because I think because it didn't really like register that it was a real person, or that I had hopes and dreams about these three little babies, or that I couldn't, like, feel them inside me growing. It's fine. The moment when,
Yeah.
like, like, I don't know if you've ever had something die inside you, but I have 3 times. And that is a whole new experience. And I don't think that enough people actively like give time and energy to that. I do remember, like, I would grieve those babies, and my ex-husband would be like, still, it's Mother's Day, why are you upset? And it's like,
Mm. Yeah.
because I said
Yeah.
whenever. Because it's never going away. They were inside me. And so, sometimes people say stuff that is, stupid, but a lot of times I let that roll off me and I have to dig it out. And I think that just giving yourself the time and the space and the people that believe in recovering health in a healthy way, I can
Yeah.
bury it inside and then I can become an alcoholic, or I can feel it for a couple extra weeks and I can move on with my life and invite joy back in.
Yeah. Yeah. I see a lot of stories about people, um, having things said to them like that. And it's hard. And we live in a culture where when someone very close to us dies, if you have like a regular W-2 job, they're like, here's your 3 days off, go do your funeral thing. And then we expect you to be, back to normal after that.
And
So,
don't make us put you on a pip if you end up dropping some balls, because your productivity is far more important, my bottom dollar, than you losing somebody that's important to you and being in
right.
shambles, right? Like, that's one of the things that I love about, at least with my personal business and being the boss that I am, is that I also create space for my team members. Like, if my team member comes to me and is like, "Hey, my cousin just completed suicide," which literally just happened, I'm not like, "Okay, you only get 3 days." I mean, I could nitpick and I could be that person,
Yeah.
and you know what? Maybe my profit margins aren't that big because I actually care about the people, but maybe my profit margins are my people.
Yeah.
Maybe the government can't take their happiness and their joy, and maybe that's the profit, right? And if I create a space where they actually get the opportunity to grieve and they can make mistakes without being like accosted because they're grieving, then
Hmm.
I actually create a space where they get to grow and like be the best of themselves that they can be. And in return, if I have the best of themselves, they show up the best when they work for me. And
Yeah.
it's not just because they're being paid, it's because they want to, it's because it's part of the mission.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. We do that at our practice. Yeah. We have a very different policy when it comes to grief and loss of any kind. So I can really, really appreciate that. Um, is there anything else that you want to mention before I ask you my last question? Anything else you wanted to talk about?
Um, I guess just, allowing people to help you, with our business and what we do. Sometimes people tend to close the door on spaces that they have and just kind of avoid them. And so sometimes the only way through is through, right? The only way to get, through the feelings is to feel them and to sit with them. And sometimes you just need somebody to hold your hand and guide you through it. And we have a lot of team members that are able to provide that safe space for you to be able to offload, sort, and then put things back. And we're not just talking about stuff.
Yeah, I love that. Well, my last question for you is a question that I like to ask everyone, because I like to create this space not just for people to have space to feel and share their stories and to experience other stories, but also to teach people who haven't experienced a profound grief how to support their friends and loved ones who are going through this process. And so, my last question is, if you can give one piece of advice to someone who's never experienced a profound loss, what would you want them to know about grief?
You don't have to fill the space.
I love that.
You just have to create it.
I love that. That's pretty powerful. So many people ask all the time, what do I say? What do I do? Well, just be there. Just show up. Um, yeah. I know for me, especially very early on, talking was like almost impossible. Like was physically hard and painful to speak to anyone but my husband and my daughter. Um, I didn't want to talk to anybody, but I wanted people around me all
Mhm.
the time. And just so I felt like what I was doing was borrowing their energy, um, and using their energy because I just had nothing left to give. So that is some of the best advice. And I appreciate that so much.
It's an honor.
Yeah. Um, Thank you, everybody, for joining us today on The Ashes We Keep. I hope that something that you heard today helps you in some way. Don't forget to subscribe and like the channel. And before I forget, Lauren, is there a way that people can get in touch with you and follow you, like you, love you, all of those things?
Absolutely. Our website is www.clarityforyourchaos, FOR. You can call us at 719-660-0678. And then we are on all the social medias, Clarity for Your Chaos, Cleaning Clarity. We've got a couple of different channels pretty much everywhere. YouTube, soon coming. But TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, all of the things you can follow us. All of our information is on the website. And if you have any questions or concerns, you can always book a free consultation with us, and we can sit down with you and talk about, how we can create a space that serves you instead of you serving the space.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys, everyone, and I hope you have a wonderful day.